This is the video application to be a demonstration classroom of Megan Roberts, a second grade teacher at Wynwood Elementary. We've been working on using our different strategies to determine the meaning of important words and phrases. So we've already talked about using context clues and paying attention to the information around the word, and using our background knowledge, sometimes we call that our schema of what we already know, and using the text features to figure out the meaning of the unknown words. So today I'm going to teach you how to explain the word meaning and how to say, well, this is my proof, this is what I did, and that's how I know what the word means. And finding out this word meaning, it's important because if we don't really understand what every word means, then we don't really, or sometimes that's going to confuse us, and then we don't even understand what the author is trying to tell us and teach us about, right? So right now we're going to take the thinking we've already been doing and we're going to put it on a chart. And the chart has 3 different columns. You're going to write down the important word. You're going to write the word meaning, the definition that you are figuring out, and then you're going to prove how you know it. And I put down a thinking stem, kind of a way to get your thinking started. A good way to start that is, I knew what the word meant because. We know that word because is important, because what do we always say after it? We give our answer. We give our proof. It makes our answer stronger to be able to say, well, this is why I know it. So today we're going to read parts of the story of the statue. What statue are they talking about?
Statue of Liberty.
Okay. So I've marked a few pages with some important words. How is it that we figure out that a word's important?
When it's bold.
Bold sometimes. What else?
The diagram.
Sometimes it points it out in the diagram, maybe with a label. Okay.
They can point out the word that is important to the statue.
And what's a way that the author points it out? Sometimes they do that by repeating a word a lot, and then sometimes it's just a new word to us, right? And you can kind of say, oh, that must be important because the author's trying to introduce me to that word. So I've marked this page, and I found an example where it is a bold word. So I'm going to read that. The Statue of Liberty is a famous monument in the United States. It is a great work of art that is important to our country's past, present, and future. So I knew that word monument was important because it was bold, and now I'm thinking, what strategy would be best for figuring this out? I can actually remember hearing that word monument before. Have you guys heard that before?
Yeah.
What is an example of when you've heard it? Amelia?
Sometimes I hear it sounds like it has to do with something with building.
Something with a building, because I've heard an example of it on the back of some of the coins. There's the Washington, or no, it was the Lincoln Monument, and I think there is a Washington Monument as well. I'm going to need to research that. But I've heard that word monument before when it was talking about, I definitely know the Lincoln Memorial. That's what I was thinking of. But I'm thinking that a monument is a building like a memorial. And that makes sense, especially since I know that the Statue of Liberty is a building. So I'm going to write monument on this because that's the important word. I'm going to check my spelling, yeah. Okay, and the way that I'm explaining it is that a monument is a building that is to remember like an important person, right? Or an important time, maybe. So a building that celebrates or remembers important people and events. Now here's the really important part of today's work, is making my answer stronger by proving how I know. I've already started the thinking stem. I knew what the word meant because. And what I used was knowing that the Statue of Liberty is a building. That's something I already knew. And I thought about other times that I've heard the word monument, like the Washington Monument, and that also made me think of the Lincoln Memorial. So I really used my background knowledge of what I already knew. So that's all so that's my proof. I knew what the word meant because I thought about my background knowledge of the Washington Monument. Now we're going to turn to a new section, and I'd like your help to fill out the chart, okay? Okay, this is the next section I found. Really take a look at the photograph that you see there. The caption that goes along with the photograph says one of the original bronze models of the statue in Paris, France. The statue needed to last through wind and bad weather, so the French engineer Gustave Eiffel agreed to help. He created a strong iron skeleton for the statue. He also had the idea to cover the outside with 300 sheets of thin copper. So the important word I noticed that is bold is engineer. I'm going to read just that sentence again. So the French engineer Gustave Eiffel agreed to help. So I know that an engineer is a person who agreed to help, but I'm really wondering, what is that engineer's job? Turn and talk about the clues that you we read there to figure it out. Thanks for finding a group of three.
And if it
turn and touch your This is what the book says. It says that the engineer Gustave Eiffel agreed to help. He created a strong iron skeleton for the statue. He also had the idea to cover the outside with 300 sheets of copper. So thinking about what he's doing and his ideas, what does it seem like is his job with the statue?
I think his job with the statue is maybe to build it, because I know engineers kind of.
So he has something to do with the building.
And I know that some engineers can drive a train.
What are you thinking, Karina?
He did build a statue. And he could make a statue, how long is the statue?
Okay.
I think he built a little statue for French people to have freedom. On the boat.
Finish up and turn back. What did your partner tell you about what they believe the word engineer means? Kayla?
Amelia says that an engineer means they fix stuff.
And what clues led you to determine that?
Because it sounded like because when I heard engineer, it sounded like a person where they work and build stuff.
Okay, so you knew that engineers had something to do with building. Were there clues in the sentences around that word that really made you think of the word fix? No S?
Yeah, I thought it sounded like they were supposed to fix stuff.
Which words made you think that?
When the French engineer agreed to help.
So we know that he had a special job, but I'm really thinking about the sentences before and after it. What about when I said the statue needed to last through wind and bad weather? What were the clues there that, Maya?
The clues were it needed to last because it made the French agree to help.
So I'm actually not even sure if the word fix is the right word because the statue hasn't been made yet. What is he's doing the planning of the statue. And what's important about his job with the planning? What could go wrong if he doesn't do his job well? Camden?
It wouldn't stand up straight and wouldn't be able to it wouldn't be able to go through the bad weather, so it would just fall.
So I would say that an engineer is a person who plans on how to build a building or statue, and what's important about his plans. It needs to make the building
the right thing, because it needs to make the building stand up straight and tall. But
the word that I think would mean all of that together is the word strong.
So
the building strong.
So the French could help.
So how did we know that? I knew what the word meant because
we use our background knowledge.
We used some background knowledge of what we already knew about the word, but really, when I went back and I read the sentence, what kind of strategy is that?
Context clues.
We used the sentences before and after it. So because we used context clues. And read that it needed to last through bad weather. Okay, the next section, the word is pedestal. Think to yourself about what you know about the word pedestal for a second. Okay. All right, this is the section where I'm reading that from. Here's the photograph. The caption says, "The finished statue in Paris, France in 1884. Oh, I'm actually reading this section. I made a mistake there. Okay, the Statue of Liberty was placed on its pedestal in 1886, 10 years late. It was supposed to be given to the United States in 1876. This date was 100 years after the United States declared its independence." I could kind of tell that I had read enough for us to figure out the word pedestal because it wasn't talking about a pedestal anymore. So just that part. The Statue of Liberty was placed on its pedestal in 1886. Turn and talk about what you believe that word means. You guys can do something that is really good as a leader is to compare the word that you don't know to another word that you use more often. So that really shows that you understand what the word means. Did I read words that made you think that? Which words? Placed on. And so what does that tell you about where the pedestal is? I'm going to call you guys. Finish up and turn back. Okay. I'd like Holden and Emily to share their meaning of the word. So it would be like a place for
the statue to stand on.
And how did you figure that out together?
By we use the diagram.
Okay, how did the diagram help? Describe what it showed you that helped you understand.
It shows this
the pedestal under the statue, because then Holden, you were describing what words helped you to figure it out.
What?
It says placed on, right? So if the statue is placed on it, that must mean that the pedestal is under it, underneath. So I knew what the word meant because I thought about how the statue could be placed on the pedestal. Okay. So today you're going to do the same kind of work that we did as a group. Your sheet to work on looks the same as our chart. So this is the same graphic organizer. I've given you clues though at the top. So if you're getting stuck, read those questions that I've given you as a hint. Okay? And you're gonna you will probably find more, but try to find at least 3 important words. Write the meaning of what you believe that word means, and then write how you know. Okay? So you're reading informational text from your book box. Okay? So I'm going to pass this to you, and then you can get started in your book box. Pass it down. We're going to read with you first, okay?
Got it.
So go ahead and find an informational book. And while you're getting started finding important words, I'm going to talk to the camera a little bit about our cards and how I fill them out, okay? Okay. So this is an example of what I do for the record keeping of the conferences. I just use a 5x7 card and I make sure to write the date so I know when I met with the student, and I divide it in half. On this side, I talk about the learning target and I write some notes about what we did and what I saw the student doing or not doing, and also the teaching point of how I get them how I move them further toward that learning target. And then the other half, the goal side, is that side is more for the student so that they can keep track of their goal, and in between our conferences they can keep progressing toward that goal. So this side is more for my record keeping and this is more for the student. Antonio, you should have your book box already. You need to check the bathroom pass before you ask. Okay, Holden, so talk to me about how, are you finding some important words as you're reading?
Yes.
Which words have you found?
Fish and gills. Well, on this page.
And how could you tell?
Because they're bold words and they're colored over yellow.
So, as a reader, what can you do to figure out the meaning of those words?
By looking through the book and see that they have been colored over with a different color.
Okay, so now knowing that that's an important word, do you already know the meaning of the words?
Yes.
Okay, then we want to find words that are important, but also words that are new to us. So I'd continue reading until you find a word like that. Angelfish.
Angelfish. A tiny
Minnow.
minnow. A hugging. A hug. A huge. A huge. A huge. Whale shark. What do these animals have in common? They all fish. They are all fish.
What makes them fish? A fish has traits or
Okay, I'm gonna stop you, Holden. I think because we already knew the meaning of those words, I'd really like, since I don't have, since I need to conference with other people today, let's move forward and move to a word that you can tell that it's important and a new word for you.
the ones that are covered with yellow probably are.
Okay, let's look at this section then. Really notice the text features that you see there, and then you can begin reading that section. Okay, go for it.
Read
Mm-hmm.
on no matter how
No matter how different.
some
Okay, I'm going to read this section for you. No matter how different some might look, all fish are vertebrates. A vertebrate is an animal that has a backbone. A backbone is made up of individual bones. Okay, so now just read that sentence that had the important word in it.
no matter how different some
Might.
look, all fish are
And that's our important word, vertebrates. Okay, so if on this page, I'll write vertebrates, what would you say that the word meaning is?
if the fish has a backbone.
Okay. How did you figure that out?
Because when you started to read that, I thought it was gonna be something different, but it actually was talking about if it had a backbone or not.
When did you know that?
When it said backbone.
In the next sentence?
Yes.
So what strategy were you using? What have we been calling that? Did you see the chart over there?
Listening?
You have to listen, that's true. But when we're using the sentences before and after it and around it, you're using the context clues. Can you see that on the chart, how it has the arrows around? To help us remember that it's before, after, and all around. Okay? So that would be your proof that you used context clues. So this is what I'm going to make your goal, Holden. first you may need to choose a book that's a little bit that's on a better level so that you can really read more of the words on your own, okay? But then once you've done that, I also want you to keep using that chart. So because you weren't really sure what to call it, like how to prove that you knew it, that chart's going to help you because you want to be able to say that you used either context clues, background knowledge, or text features. Okay? So do you see the chart there? Okay, so that's going to be your goals. I will prove how I know by explaining, by using a strategy from the chart, okay? Okay, here's your goal card. How are you?
Good.
Have you been able to find some new important words today? Yes. Can you give me some examples?
One of them is I can't really pronounce it.
Okay, can you go for it? Try it.
I don't know if to use the P or not because some words.
You're right. Some
words we don't use the P.
Well, some words like phone, right?
Yeah.
What sound does it make instead?
The F.
Yeah. So try it that way. Amphibians. You were right. So, what strategy will you use to try and figure out the meaning?
I will try to put spaces between the words and sound them out.
Oh, I don't mean figuring out how to say the word. I mean, now that you know that's an important word, amphibians, how will you figure out what that word means, not how to say it?
By trying to read on it and looking at the pictures.
Okay.
The pictures help.
We can read on, or we could read before. We can read all around. And since I noticed that is the last sentence, this is connected to your strategy, but I think we should actually go back and read what was before it. That's still using the strategy. What have we been calling that? Reading around the word. Yeah, what have we been calling when we read the sentences before and after? Can you think of which strategy you're using on the chart? If you're reading around the word, what strategy is that? You see the arrows going around? What does that say? Context clues. That's right. Okay, so turn back around and let's read before it and use those context clues.
It's hard to tell the difference between frogs until they both have 4 legs and can have green or brown skin. Both have eyes that stick out and both eat insects. They are amphibians.
Okay, do you feel like that helps you understand that word
Yes.
more? What are you thinking that it means?
That it means about
the about how they look or how they eat the insects.
Maybe it has something to do with that. Okay. Now, since it is bold, do you know of another place where the word would be?
In the classroom.
Okay. I'm thinking maybe we could also use that strategy and go back and use that text feature. Could you find it there? Because I think them being similar is just one part of why they're an amphibian.
So that means that kinds of animals that can live on land and in water. So that means the toad lives on land. The toad lives on land, and the frog lives on water. Because I know the frog is mostly slimy. And we can find
Its skin does look wetter, but the definition that it tells us, it says that they live on land and in water.
So they live on both.
That is the importance of that word there. So on your chart, you've already written amphibians, great job, and now how will you explain the meaning?
I will say both frogs live on land and water.
And how did we figure it out?
We figured it out by going to the glossary.
Okay, great. So I'm going to make this your goal. I at first I agreed with you. I thought context clues would help us, but then I wanted to use the glossary just to kind of double check. And that's something you can always do as a reader. So try to use more than one strategy and way of figuring it out, and see if how you can use all of that information together. Okay? Emily, tell me how you've been able to identify important words and determine the meaning. Can you give me some examples of words you've already worked on from your chart?
Planet.
Okay. Let's talk about solar system. Can you find, you were just on that page, weren't you? Okay. I think you were in the middle of writing the meaning. What were you putting down and writing?
That the solar system has 8 planets.
So when someone says solar system, what are they talking about?
8 planets.
All together. It's kind of like a faster way of talking about all of them at the same time instead of listing them all out, right? Okay. How did you determine that meaning and figure it out?
By reading.
Which words then were the clues that helped you?
There are 8 planets.
Do you think the author did a good job of helping you figure out the meaning of that word?
Yes.
Why do you think so?
Because he told us what's the solar system all about.
I see. So you're saying he gave a good detail to explain the word afterwards. Okay. So, as a reader, what would you say? Why is determining the meaning of the words important?
That you can tell by it's a new word, by the same word.
How can you tell when a word is important? What is it that you think about when you start to notice, I think this word is important?
But just look at the letters and just say the word.
Oh, so you're explaining how you know that the word is pronounced, but I'm really asking, how do you know that it's important to the topic? What is the topic of the book? Earth and Mars. And I should have been even more specific. What's the topic of this section?
Solar system.
You knew that from the heading. So because it's a heading, that tells you automatically it must be an important word to understand, right? So this is what I'm going to have as your goal. I want you to try, and I noticed that you were working on the word solar system, and that word was the heading and bold, and that's a quick way of telling that it's an important word. I want you also in any of your reading, especially maybe with a book that has more reading to it, like this example, there may not be bold words here. So what you're going to have to do as a reader in those books is really pay attention to the topic and what you know about the topic, and when a new word and you can tell because it's new and you haven't heard that word before, that's one way of telling that's important, or because it's a word that's repeated a lot. So that's so if for the rest of the day, could you actually switch to this book? Because it's not going to have bold words. You're going to have to challenge yourself and really pay attention to it being new or repeated to know that it's important. Okay? And I'm going to write that as your goal. I will know a word is important without being bold. Okay? Thanks, Emily.
I learned in the book that Jupiter spins very fast, so it's as big. A day on Jupiter is only 10 hours, but a year on Jupiter is as 12 Earth years.
Was there an important word that stood out to you in that section?
12 Earth years made me surprised because a day on Jupiter is only 10 hours. In a year, I think it's kind of confusing because shorter than a year, than 12 years, because that's shorter than a day on Earth.
So let's really focus on the skill that we've been working on, though, is thinking more about, and you're kind of describing to me what you learned from the book. Can you find some words that were new, important words to you? Maybe not in that section, but anywhere in the book. What are you looking for as you're flipping through the pages?
I'm looking for the bold word, because I saw one, but sometimes you already know what it means because they put a word that you already know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a fast way of telling that a word is important, because the author's already pointed it out to you by making it bold. But you're right. Sometimes you might already know those words. So really, you also need to be, as a reader, you need to be able to read a section, and you might actually notice an important word that the author didn't make bold. Or sometimes your book might not even have bold words. Let's try switching to a new book. Find a section in here and just quickly read it and see how you can do as a reader, figure out that it's a new important word to you. Okay? That's going to be your goal. So you noticing any words that are new or repeated?
You could put coat as a bold word because it's not like the coat that we wear. It's like a different kind of coat.
How are you figuring that out?
Because it says like it's not as sometimes has all black coat. But they mean like a fur coat, not like the coat that we wear. It's like the fur on their body.
So what are you using? Which of our strategies to figure that out?
I used words that were around it to help me figure that out.
Which words around it?
Black, because that helped me figure
Spotted. Probably. Okay. So on your chart, you'll be able to say that you knew that the coat meant. What did you say that it meant?
It meant that it meant like the fur on their body.
And then when explaining how you figured it out, you can say that I knew that because of using the context clues, and then you can make your answer even better by listing out which words that you used. Okay? Mr. Strong, could you actually go to Mrs. Skinroot's room first today? Mrs. Skinroot's room first today. Is that all right? Okay, thank you.
Upside down?
So really, Kayla, what our work showed was that it's important to find words that you don't already know and that you do need to do some thinking to figure out. There's your gold card. Were there important words that you read in that section? What words were new to you? It's worth thought. You can keep that in your book box. I would keep the sheet in your book box. The book that we talked about solar system. Okay, I'll fix it tomorrow. It sounds like there's about 30 seconds left in the song. Oh, I was wrong. It was only 15 seconds. Thank you for heading to the middle of your square. Emily, you can go on up to the sharing chair. Emily's going to tell us about the work she did today and how she's growing as a reader.
The worksheet that I did today I was reading solar system, and there was a sentence that helped me know what the solar system means. So I knew. Then solar system, there are 8 planets in there. And what I'm doing as a reader is that to understand the book.
Thank you, Emily. Does anyone have some thinking of what they're doing as a reader that kind of connects to what Emily was sharing? Maya?
Mine connects to Emily because I do the same thing. I grow as a reader
And by doing what?
by doing I can't remember that word. What word?
Okay. Thank you, Emily. Let's have
Kayla?
Kayla. Are you ready? Yeah.
I was reading 2 books, but the first book I read, the only gold word I could find was volcanoes, and I already knew what it meant. And so sometimes you have to look at the gold word and be sure you know what it means. And if you know what it means, you can just read on. But if you don't know what it means, you have to take your time to figure it out.
Does anyone have thinking that connects to what Kayla's sharing? Trayvon?
I did the same thing when I was doing mine.
What were you doing?
I was looking at the words that I already knew and what I knew about them, and I described them in my head what they meant.
Oh, because sometimes the words you already know are the clues to figure out new words. Is that what you're saying? Oh, okay. Thank you, Kayla.
Michael?
Holden. Going up.
I was reading fishes and I was learning, and Miss Roberts was telling me that I should start reading some of
Just a book where you can read most of the words yourself, right? Or were you talking about how we figured out the word?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember what we did? Using the chart, which strategy did we use?
We used context clues,
Uh-huh.
and Miss Roberts told me I'm going to need to use it, and
So when you say using context clues, what does that really mean? What did you do?
I was reading, and
You were really reading the sentences that came
Before that word, and then I should give it a guess.
that came before and after the word, right? Because the arrows that we put up there, what does that tell us, Holden? How does that help us remember?
it helps us remember to
That the context clues are,
keep on going.
and they're around the word, is why we added those arrows. So why will reading the sentences before and after help you?
They help by
Okay, but here's the example of the word. You were figuring out the word vertebrates. I'd keep the camera on him. You were doing the word vertebrates, and you read a word in the sentence that really helped you. What word was it? You found the word backbone, Holden. I think next time you share, can you please bring your card that has what we talked about? That'll help with your sharing. Okay, thanks. Michael.
Me and Miss Roberts talked about this word, and the word was amphibians, and I used my background chop knowledge, so the P wouldn't trick me, because I learned that I learned that the P can be an F sometimes.
And then tell us about how you figured out the meaning of the word.
How I figured out the meaning of the word was I read the word and then I know it was a bold word, so I went to the glossary. Then I looked for the word, and I saw kinds of animals that live on land and water, so that means a frog and a toad can live on land and water.
Does anyone have a connection to what Michael did as a reader? Camden, have you used the glossary?
Yeah, I use the glossary most of the times because I usually don't really remember the word and I don't remember what it really means, so I go look in the glossary.
Okay, thank you.